Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here at Star Cottage Studio. Hopefully, you are having a great Tuesday and a great start to your week. It was absolutely beautiful here in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania today, and hopefully, it was beautiful where you are. Um, yeah, we've been having, I think, a pretty productive day. I've been trying to clear my schedule through the end of the year to have more time in the studio as we get ready for Tucson and get ready for that. So it's been interesting. I still find myself having a lot of meetings, but less than um, before. So, yeah. It's a work in progress. So hopefully you all are doing well out there. Let me know if you're watching and where you're tuning in from. We always love to hear where people are watching. So if you missed it last night, we had a late night debut. I think we're gonna try to pop on a little bit more than we have in the past and at various time points. Part of what we're doing lately is we've been trying to listen to all of you out there and try to, really dial into you and what you prefer. And, there's only so much we can do, but if we can do it, we might as well try. One of those things was we were thinking about changing our time slot. So we went on last night. It was pretty late, but not too bad for us. And last night we debuted two new things. We debuted the new Allegory Gallery Design Challenge mixes, which this mix is pearls and is really beautiful. I love pearls. And yeah, so that was debuted last night. We also debuted a new kit last night, and that one I lovingly refer to as Waiting for Spring. And if you know me, I love spring now. I used to, when I grew up in Florida, spring wasn't really a big thing because things were pretty much blooming all year round. But when you move to the north and things are pretty dead for several months out of the year, spring is a joyous time. And I love flowers. So, yeah, spring, waiting for spring. That kit went live last night. There is only a limited availability of that one. So if you want that one, you're going to have to jump on it because I didn't make that many of them. All right, I see a couple of folks tuning in. Let's see. Marianne is watching. Hey, Marianne. Teresa is watching. Hey, Teresa. Lorraine is watching. Hey, Lorraine in Massachusetts. Suzanne is watching. Hey, Suzanne. Susie's watching. Hey, Susie. Susie says, pearls are a girl's best friend, not diamonds. Well, you can like whatever you like. You like diamonds, wear diamonds. You want to be best friends with pearls, be best friends with pearls. Whatever makes you happy. Amanda's watching. Hey, Amanda. Yeah, I love pearls. And when I was little, my mom used to have this old, ratty kind of, it was pretty much falling apart. It was this red rattan kind of case, and she brought it out and she showed me this pearl, and it was probably, is a fairly substantial size. It wasn't perfect or smooth, but it was a pretty big kind of one. And she told me stories about my grandma, which I never got a chance to meet. I met on her mom on my side, on her side. I never got a chance to meet my other grandma, my dad's side. I have a lot of fond memories of, but so yeah, so they do have a sentimental meaning to me, and it was I think that there's something very special about pearls. And there's so much to know and learn about pearls. I took this course online, and I had always thought that a grain of sand had gotten in an oyster, and that's what caused pearls. And what they showed was that that's kind of a myth. Um, and it may happen, it could happen, but generally speaking, they're filter feeders, so they're designed to expel sand. So it's not usually what happens. Usually what happens in nature is something will attack the mantle. Either there'll be a shell fragment that gets stuck in there, and there's a little bit of tissue that needs to happen. Um, and so it's not usually a grain of sand. And they actually have videos that they showed in that course of the mollusk expelling sand, which I thought was pretty cool. Nowadays, most pearls, at least that we get, are cultured pearls. And so what that is they take a nucleus, which is basically a bead made of shell, and then they insert that into um, the oyster or mollusk in this tissue. And then that forms those layers of nacre. And usually, what they also do is they attach a little bit of the mantle, the tissue mantle, and that creates kind of these signals to create that coating. So it's pretty neat. Um, uh, and it's super fascinating. One of the other things that I thought was really fascinating is that a lot of the pearls they get their start in the Mississippi River. They only use certain shells, and some of those shells are found in the Mississippi River. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Norma's watching. Hey, Norma. Hey, June. Norma says, I always thought it was a grain of sand also. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's a nice idea and maybe it happens, or somebody like observed it in the old times, but they didn't really know. But now we can kind of scientifically look at how things happen, and it's not quite like that. So it's interesting. I think it's super fascinating. All right, so I have a meeting after this one, directly after this one. So we are going to just jump directly into the project because if we dilly dally too late, I'm going to be late. And it's a very important meeting for the TGBE presenters. So we're super excited about that. We're planning for the Midwinter Market, which is happening in January. We're also planning beyond January, but part of that is, that's the one that's happening next. So if somebody could give me a time check, maybe 6:10 my time, Eastern time. If y'all could give me and be like, hey, it's time, let me know. And I will end the live then, because I can start rambling and then it's we're late. Howdy, Barbara's watching from North Carolina. All right, so I'm gonna flip this around. You're gonna see the ceiling for a moment. All right, so for today's project, we're going to need pearls for one. I've got these really beautiful gold colored faceted pearls. Those are available in the online store if you're interested. There's a lot of pearls, and that's allegorygallery.com. So if you go to www.allegorygallery.com, You can see all of our pearly goodness. We've got lots and lots of things, including this mix. And this is the mix. This is not this is one of the ones that, we empty the bag into the shell, and there's a lot of goodies in there. I'm going to try to do it. There's all kinds of, there's freshwater pearls, there's glass pearls, there's shell pearls, there are smooth pearls, there are baroque pearls, there are blister pearls, there's all kinds of pearly goodness. Vintage pearls, new pearls, dyed pearls, undyed pearls, lots of cool stuff. So hopefully you all enjoy that. There's only a limited amount of them available. So if you want to play along, we're going to have a creative make-along challenge with this one. And this also comes with a toggle. So if you didn't see that toggle, this is one of the AG Fine Pewter toggles. And so it comes with a mix and a toggle. And it's a pretty good deal because if you got all these strands individually, it would add up. And I think it would make quite a long strand of pearls. And so yeah, I think it's a good deal. All right, and this is a toggle that I was talking about. I don't know if you can see that or not. That one wants to hang out. So I think that's a beautiful, almost like a wave, kind of a wave symbol. So I like it. And there's more details about that if you go to the website. Cynthia says, once again, I stayed out too long and now it's getting dark in the woods. Oh no. Yeah, it's getting dark here. The sun is still shining, just barely. It's just barely set here. Teresa's watching. Marianne says that she got her mix. Thank you, Marianne. And Amanda says that's a gorgeous mix. Thank you, thank you. I think it's nice. Each one is going to be slightly different because Barb, she packed everything up, and there's a mix, so you never know what you're going to get. I threw in some extra good ones in there, so hopefully you all will find those and enjoy those. Not to say that they aren't all good, but I put in some extra nice ones. All right, so I've got this one. This is what I'm going to be using today. These are faceted pearls. I love faceted pearls, good faceted pearls, I should say. And they are very lovely. They have a little bit of a different look than regular pearls because you get to see almost little layers or little windows into the layers of nacre. So it's a cool look. I like them. All right, so we're going to use those. We're going to need some crimp tubes. I've got some crimp tubes, which means we're going to need some crimping pliers. We're going to need some flexible beading wire. I've got some of that here. And we're going to also need some head pins. I've got some 8 Sizedo some seed beads. These ones are crystal with a copper core. I think those look particularly nice with this design because it kind of mimics the pearl with that kind of inner glow business. So, and if you didn't want to use pearls, you could use something else. I know some people don't like pearls. I love them, but I know some people don't like them. So, anyways, if you wanted to use something else, you could definitely use something else. And I still think this is a nice design. Now, this design does have a lot of repetition, and it's going to get a little bit boring. So, I'm going to need you all to keep us kind of entertained. I know that's going to, sometimes that's tricksy, but we're all going to have to pull together. Because sometimes it's a little bit boring when you do the same thing over and over and over again. I'm going to be quick about this. Now, I should also mention that depending on the materials that you use, it's going to change the look dramatically. So if you use something with, all white pearls and like a pearly kind of seed bead at the end, it's going to have a different look. If you change the metal, it's going to have a different look. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually a great thing because you can really make it your own and make it interesting, which I think is important when we're designing. And you can make these with smaller pearls or smaller beads and use those for earrings. Or if you wanted to use great big components, you could use great big components and they would be great for a focal on a necklace. I really haven't done this for a bracelet, but I guess you could. It could be a version of like a cha-cha bracelet, but a little bit different. All right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take some head pins and pull those out. And I'm going to just kind of play it by ear with how many I'm going to use for this project. Like I said, depending on how many you do, it will change the look of your piece. All right. So I've got that. I'm going to put this off to the side because we won't need this for a while. I do like to have nice cutters and some chain nose pliers and round nose pliers. Those are super helpful. Also, I should mention that depending on which kinds of round nose pliers you use will determine how big your hole is, your loop. So if you use a smaller set of pliers with a smaller tip, the loops of your dangles are going to be much smaller, and also depending on where you make your loop. So if you do your loop closer to the tip, that's going to be really small. And then if you do it closer to the base, it's going to be a little bit larger because it's basically a mandrel that's tapered, and depending on where you do your loops, um, it will determine how big your loop is. Now, if you are worried about your loops being consistent, sometimes you can take a Sharpie and make a little line of where you want your loop to be, and then that you can line it up there every time, and usually your loops will be about the same size every time. Sometimes I just do it by feel, and I've been doing it so many times that they are pretty consistently the same size. And it doesn't matter too much if they're different sizes, but it is nice for this particular design if they are a little bit more consistent. Now, I wire wrap differently, so if you have a different way of doing this, you are more than welcome to do it. And if somebody else tells you, hey, this is how you do it, please don't tell them that I told you that my way is the only way, because it's definitely not. So there's lots of different ways of doing the same thing, and if it works for you, goody. If it, some people's hands work in different ways, and something is more comfortable than something else, and so just keep that in mind. All right. So I've got, I'm going to undo the end real quick, cut that off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to string up just one of these seed beads and one of these pearls. Now, sometimes the pearls, the holes get kind of small. And the way that I've kind of combated that is I'll get my chain nose pliers and I'll hold it, and then I'll just wiggle it. And generally speaking, it'll usually work. Sometimes it's stubborn. You can get a pearl reamer, and those helps. Sometimes when people drill pearls, they only drill one side really good. And so that's just something that, you kind of have to play with. And maybe I'm going to switch to a smaller head pin, smaller gauge head pin. Because I really, it's, I don't mind reaming out pearls, but it's going to be, if we have to make a bunch of these, let me just tell you, it's not going to go very quick for this project, especially since I've got a meeting directly after this. Yeah, so let me test these ones and see if I can get it to wiggle in there. And it's not doing it, y'all. That's okay. That's okay. We are going to let's try something else. Let's see if these head pins off to the side are any better. All right, so these ones are a little bit better. These are a spangle, which is all right. That it is what it is. It gives it a different look. These little paddles. I think it's good to be a little bit flexible. All right, so we're gonna be flexible, y'all. Luckily, I have these. I'm gonna put these off to the side here. And I think that these ones, the head pins that I have, are plated, so they're just a smidgen thicker than usual. So there's that. All right, so all I'm doing is I'm making a wire wrapped loop at the top here. So I'm going up about 1/2 inch and I'm folding this over like so. And then I'm going to insert this back in there and wrap this wire around. And it's got this little karate chop, like he's going, hi-ya. So I'm going to cinch that real quick and make it at a 90-degree angle. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then I'm going to proceed to wrap around using my tools, because the tools allow me to get into places that I can't reach regularly with my fingertips, because my fingertips are much larger than the tool tip. Now, before I get to the very base and finish coiling this around, I'm going to turn this in and cinch it so that it's going in the direction of in the direction of my wire wrap loop here. All right. Because when I go and I tuck this tail in, what I'm going to do is it's going to want to, instead of having that little tail poke out at the end, it's going to be, we're going to have that tuck perfectly around. All right. So it's perfectly going around in a spiral instead of kind of poking outwards. And that's a nice thing because then you don't get it caught up on your clothing or whatever. All right. So we're just going to repeat that over and over and over again. So this is where we're going to have audience participation, and you're all going to tell me interesting things to keep me going. Otherwise, it's basically like watching paint dry, and then you know, you may like that. Sometimes I like watching paint dry, but for the most part, there are other things that are a wee bit more interesting to do. So maybe that one just had a small hole, because even this new one isn't fitting through very well. And I'm not going to throw this away or do anything weird like that. I'm just going to put this off to the side, and then whenever I have more time, I can ream it out with a pearl reamer. The pearl reamers are very inexpensive. They're usually a perforate or a wire that is texture on it, and you can just go in and it helps smooth or pull that material out and make that hole a wee bit bigger. All right. So I see a couple of folks watching more. Hey, Bonnie, how's it going? Hopefully you're having a great start to your week. And if you're watching the replay, hello out there, replay watchers. We've noticed that a lot of people have been watching our videos on replay, which is cool to, see that happen. Of course, we want, it's nice to hang out and have fun, but we understand sometimes the schedule is tricky. You don't always get to hang out when you want to hang out. So yeah, I'm just going to continue doing this, and I'm going to continue doing this probably 8 to 10 times. It just depends on how full I want it. Bonnie says, going good, making spaghetti while I'm watching. That sounds yummy. I'm kind of in the mood for spaghetti. If William's watching, maybe he can pick up some noodles, because I don't think we have any noodles in the house. Maybe some bread too. That sounds good. So I can make some garlic bread. And maybe another cheese Danish, because I ate the last of the cheese Danish today for breakfast. Yeah, so we've been having a pretty interesting time in our business. We've really dialed into listening to our customers and trying to refine our offerings so that we do a better job. And it's not that we do a terrible job. It's just like anything, you can always improve what you're doing and fine tune things. You never stop learning. And I think it's important when you're doing a small business that you're able to pivot and adapt. Most of the businesses that I know that were able to pivot and adapt are ones that are still around. But the ones that kind of were stuck, they didn't really stay around. So for us, we want to stick around. So we're having to think about things right now and how we can better do what we're doing. And we're just starting up a lot of new stuff, or restarting in a lot of cases some of the programming that we used to do, that we kind of stepped back from when the pandemic rolled through. So it's interesting for some of y'all who are newer to us, who weren't around during the heyday of like all of our activities and art shows and everything that we did, and are kind of tuning in now after the pandemic. Because you're going to be like, wow, they do a lot of stuff. And we do a lot of stuff. Julie says, hello, super late. You are, you didn't miss much. We just got started. I'm going to need somebody to tell me when it's 6:10ish so that I can go to my other meeting at 6:15. All right. So for this project, Julie, since you're just tuning in, all I did is I took this paddled head pin and I strung up one size 8 seed bead and one of these faceted pearls. Now, depending on what materials you use, it'll change the look of your project. So if you use not faceted pearls, just regular pearls, it'll have a different look than if you use these faceted pearls. Now, the pearls I have listed on the website. That's allegorygallery.com. We also just launched a really cool mix, and this would be really fun to do the mix, because there's all different kinds of pearls in that mix. So that would add another layer of interest to your project by diversifying the materials that you use. So if you wanted to use all different kinds of pearls, it would give it a cool, different new look. All right. So we're just going to continue on with our wire wrapping. Um, and yeah, so hopefully you are working along with me with your own project, or, I don't know what y'all do while you watch these. Maybe watch like super intently. Um, Sometimes I like to have a project going when I'm watching other people's lives. Um, and it's nice for me to have something else to kind of keep my hands busy. And this is a perfect kind of project for that, where you don't really have to think a lot about it. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely trim that wire. I kind of just don't. I don't like to trim the wire. I think it adds a nice little bead cap kind of feel to it when I've got it all kind of coiled up. I call it a messy wrap, and I kind of like that flavor. I know some people they like to trim it. When I first started wire wrapping, I trimmed everything and I tried to make it look like as machined as possible. But nowadays, I kind of am. I'm more of the messy wrap kind of person, and by nowadays, I mean the last like 20 years. So so there's that. Um, Amanda says, "I'm needing pizza dough." Bonnie said, "Did you hammer the wire ends?" I didn't, but you can. These are called paddle head pins, and you can buy them already done, or you can just do it with a ball peen hammer and using the round side. So when you hit it with there's two different kinds of blows that you're gonna get. If you use the flat side, it's a compression blow, and if you use the ball side, it will flare out the metal. So use a rounded side to help flare out the metal, and work at the tip and work your way in. And then when you get to when you're happy and satisfied with how much it's flared out, you can take your flat side and hammer it down a little bit. And that's an easy way to make a flared, they call these either a paddle dangle or, um, but I just bought these like this. So, um, and yeah, I like them. They add a nice little bit of sparkle on that, or a little bit of visual interest with that glittering. Um, but you could easily mix that. The one thing you do, if you do make those yourself, you may want to hit it with a little bit of sandpaper. And the reason why is that sometimes if you don't, those ends can be sharp when you're doing that. So just be careful and either file them down with a diamond file or a really small file, or use a little bit of sandpaper and knock off any sharp edges. This is already done since I bought them like that, so I don't have to worry about that. And the reason why I'm using these as opposed to these flattened, like a regular flattened head pin, is that these ones have been coated and they're kind of tricky to get into the pearls. And the pearls sometimes have tight holes, which you can expand with a pearl reamer. But yeah, so if you have a file, there's a little itty bitty file like this. This is it's called a half round file because it's got a round side on the back and then a flat side on the bottom. But if you do hammer your own, just take that flat side and lightly go around the edges, and that will prevent it from being sharp on here, because sometimes that can happen when you're hammering. If you can't find these little paddles, I don't actually know where I got these. I've had them for a long time. I made this beautiful chain where I wire wrapped these head pins on that, and it made it really sparkly and spangly. It was pretty cool. So I'm going to do about 8 to 10 of these, maybe a little bit more, depending on the size of a focal that I want. I'm going to use this for a focal for a necklace, but if you wanted to, you could use a smaller size bead or smaller size pearl for the cluster and make it perfect for earrings. I love the Vermeer painting Girls of Pearl earring, and if you made kind of a pearl cluster, it would have that similar vibe, but be a little bit more contemporary. Put your own spin on it, right? And so I've got 2, 4, 6, 8. Maybe I'll do a couple more. Maybe 12. How about it? Lorraine says, "Do you sell the paddle pins?" We don't. Not to my knowledge. I can look around, but I don't think we do. I know I got these for my stash because the bag is like disintegrating. And yeah. I did make an earring kit once that had these in it. That kit sold out though. It was a Scully kit, and it had that chain with the skulls on it. Here we go. So if your pearl gets stuck and you don't want a bead ream, sometimes if you hold this close, if you hold it way back here, it's going to bend up your wire. And if you have any bends in your wire, that can make it harder. So hold it close and then just spin your pearl down, and that will help it get, on there. And then switch to the other side, and then it'll slide down, generally speaking. All right. Cynthia says, "You are so good at doing those. I love the silver ball necklace you gave me for my birthday years ago." Thanks. Yeah. I have done these wire wraps probably thousands, if not millions of times, because I used to make these bracelets called fuzzy caterpillar bracelets, and each one of these bracelets had hundreds of these wire wraps. And this wire is a little bit stiff. I believe it's a brass wire. So it's a little bit harder on the hands, I'll be honest. If you have other metals, sometimes it's a wee bit easier to do the wire wrapping. And also these aren't my normal chain nose pliers. Here. Oh, they're the same. I was like, oh, I have some extra, and then they're the same pliers. But for me, it kind of hits like right here, and that kind of wears me out a little bit quicker. So, but thanks. Yeah. I like it. It's a very meditative process. When the beads fit, it actually is pretty fun. When the beads don't fit, it's not fun, as much fun. It can kind of be tedious when they don't want to fit. So it's less fun when you have to mess around with reaming stuff out. But if you want to use those pearls, sometimes if you use too fine of a wire, it's not as substantial, which is not necessarily a bad thing for this because nothing is going to be like super structural with this. So with these head pins, so it's okay. Sometimes if something gets like a ton of movement, or there's a little bit of if it has a lot of pressure put on it, then I want to make sure that the head pins that I use are going to be enough to withstand that. Teresa says, "Do you have 8O seed beads that match the pearl mix?" This pearl mix, I think you could use anything and it would match. Honestly. because there is so many different kinds. I think it would be fun to play around with the different ones and find those. I can look though. We don't currently sell a lot of seed beads, but we've been thinking about it. Bonnie says it's nice because all the wires are the same size. I always try to eyeball it and they never look the same. Cynthia says, June, thanks. I ran, skipped back. It was just getting hard to see. Sometimes when I'm taking pictures and videos, I lose track of time. I should set a timer. Yeah, you never know. That's happened a couple times when we were out and about and it starts getting dark. It seems like it gets dark really fast lately. When the sun does come out. It was beautiful today here in Ligonier. But the last couple of days it's been like kind of cold and rainy and overcast, which is not my favorite. For me, that's not my time to shine. I like sunshine. So yeah. So you're just going to wrap these around. You may notice that I'm using my pliers. Sometimes people will use their fingers. The thing is that sometimes these ends of the wires get sharp. And then if you're using your fingers, you may not realize it until later. But if you're using your fingers, sometimes those little ends can cut you. And then when you go to make a margarita and you're slicing your lime, it will burn like hellfire because the acid will go into those little micro abrasions, not the good kind of micro abrasions that make your face soft, but the bad micro kind of cuts that sting like you dipped your hand in salt. So, or, put the salt on the wound kind of business. So you don't want to do that. Use the tools if you've got them. Pliers are relatively inexpensive. And also, they'll be able to manipulate in areas that your fingers may not reach. All right. So just keep that in mind because sometimes, it's easy just to go ahead and use your fingers, but then sometimes it's, you could get, a little bit cleaner of a finish. Also, one of the other tricks about wire wrapping that I've got is you don't have to hold on to the wire and then never let go. I've seen this before where once somebody's like gotten their plier on, they don't want to let go of the wire. They're like, oh, it's on there. It's like basically glued on there, but it's not. So I've seen people where they'll try to do everything in one smooth, even motion and they never want to let go of the wire. But the thing is that if you do it like that, you're going to create kinks in your wire. And then your wire wire has memory and you're going to see that. So, like, here's one step. Here's another step. And then here's another step. And then here's another step. And then see how I'm doing it? I'm not holding on and never letting go. I'm going for as long as it goes. And then it'll tell you, like by feel, if you're going too hard or too long and you're not going to have the right angle. Now, the way that I do wire wrap, I will recommend that you don't want to squeeze too tight with your head pin or your round nose pliers because the way that I do it, you can create a divot in the top. So you've got to have a gentle kind of hand with it because otherwise it will kink up it will add a little divot in the tops of your wire wrap links, and that can become a weak spot that can become problematic if you do it too tight. Now, I've been wire wrapping for a very long time, and I've never had anything, knock on wood, get damaged because of that. So just be mindful of that. So sometimes you don't have to put all your strength into doing it. I think sometimes with wire, especially more rigid wires, people get kind of intimidated and they feel like they have to like use all of their brute strength on them. But really, if you finesse things little by little, then you're not going to have the same kind of you don't have to struggle and fight with it as much. All right, so just keep that in mind. You don't have to use your He-Man or She-Ra powers on them. And I think it's nice when you kind of take time with a project. You know, it's good to be quick about things and not dilly-dally too much, but there's something nice when you think about, like, especially if you're making something for a gift, that uh, you've spent time with that gift and have really I kind of meditate on things and think about good things. Bonnie's or Cynthia says Bonnie Francis. It was nice on my walk. Very mysterious. I had a hand warmer I carry in my pocket and it helps with the cold. That's good. So Cynthia and I have been talking about Tucson and our plans for Tucson. And we're getting ready for that, which is pretty exciting. It's exciting, but a little bit daunting because we have so much to do, and it seems like there's a lot of time, but really it's like a month. So um, that is because I'm going away. I'm going to go down to North Carolina for a symposium in the middle of January. So um, it's a little bit daunting when I start thinking about all the things that I need to do. Bonnie says Tucson will be fun. I wish I could go. Yeah, Cynthia and I had talked about doing maybe like a little mini retreat with folks, take them around to different things, maybe do some journaling and out in the desert, or make some jewelry out in the desert. I don't think we're going to have time to do that this year because we've gotten a pretty full calendar of stuff that we've got to do. So I don't think we're going to do that this year. Um, and you never know, like, I don't know about y'all, but making plans anymore is super tricky. I feel like we've made plans for trips this year and had to cancel. And I hate doing that. So yeah, it's been interesting, but um, maybe we'll do some reconnaissance while we're there this year and plan it out for next year a little bit more. Because I think it would be a lot of fun. We always have a good time. Usually, we kind of plan to take our time when we're driving out, and it's very enjoyable. Like we go sightseeing and do different things, and it's a little bit more and stop and see people along the way. Um, our friend Ellen, she lives in Arkansas, and that's directly on the route, so it's right off the highway. I don't know how people feel about us staying there with them though, with the pandemic still happening. It may not be like happening full force, but some people might think it's weird to have people in their house. So I don't know. We'll see. But you usually stop in Arkansas the first night. I want to go back to that place, and if we can spend a day, I don't know if you want to do this or not, but go and mine for crystals. I am in it to win it. Maybe that our friend, her name starts with a D. The one we stayed at when they were fixing it up, the Airbnb. If we could stay overnight there and dig for crystals. Julia asked, Cynthia, will you be at the Pueblo again? And she said no. Cynthia says, starting out on production. We are, yeah, I haven't stopped production. We've been making stuff every night. And because we are also keeping up with our regular people, not just production for Tucson. So it's a little bit kind of stressful. Um, but it is what it is. I had a thought that I was going to go down to Florida to see my parents when all of everybody else was down there. But I don't think we're going to go down this year. And part of the reason is that I just feel so behind. Like, if I'm making stuff for production, I am like the least prepared that I've ever been. Um, and I know that that's probably just me playing tricks with my own mind. But I just need to get stuff out of the way. And then maybe after Tucson, I'll go down and see them because, yeah, I don't know. I just feel very unprepared. So I don't think I'm going to be able to go down to see them, which is a shame. I feel like my other sister Sheila is going to think that we are like stranger danger time because we never get to see her, and she lives just over in Ohio. So maybe I'll ask and see if they want to get lunch or something one of the days and go to the Cleveland Art Museum. Because that's not as big of a trip. That's like a day trip. Like, we don't have to find the cat sitter, and we don't have to find extra help to watch the shop for extended period of time. But like when we go down to Florida, it's a much bigger kind of thing. And also, we still have to work. So that's the other kind of hiccup. Now that pearl, I probably should have skipped it. It's got a little bit where it took off a little bit too much when it was faceting. So I'll just put that off to the side. I probably should have just looked at that. Cynthia says, we will have a wonderful road trip. Lorraine says, I'm kind of sad when the project is finished. I love the process. Yeah, I can see that. Bonnie says, wow, you drive there. Cool. Yeah, we bring so much stuff that it's hard if we fly. Sometimes back in the day when they had less restrictions on what you could carry, we would fly, but we haven't done that for a while. Julie says, Cynthia, right? Forgot how crazy that was. Yeah, the shows we found some that are not too bad that we're gonna do this year, but that one is kind of pricey. Bonnie says, my sister did that and she had so much fun. Cynthia says, Bonnie, it takes 4 days for us to leisurely drive. And Cynthia says, let's dig for crystals. It's going to be a short trip. And Cynthia says she can easily visit. Maybe you can fly down for a long weekend. I don't know. Sandra says, you're coming to Florida? That's where I am. My parents live in the Orlando area. And Cynthia says, although I like that talk of an extended road trip along the coast looking for treasure. Yeah, that would be nice. Bunny says, I like that rough pearl look. Sometimes I purposely look for those pearls. Well, yeah, I do too. But sometimes not. Because all these ones are not. So, anyways, let's see how many I've got. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Let me see. I'll add a couple more. I've got the head pins. And we've got the time, I guess. I don't know. I'll just keep going until I can't go anymore. And then how about that? Yeah, I kind of there's a lot of stuff going on, so it's a little bit trickier to go anywhere anymore. It feels like I don't know. Um Barnaby, he's doing better because he's getting used to the dry, but he's still coughs, and so that's kind of hard to leave him because he still takes steroids every once in a while, and it's hard for him. So it's hard when you have a cat that gets sickly time. So we'll see what happens. Usually the house sitter is pretty good about it, but um, at the same time, it's a lot of pressure. Um, Marion says 5:55. All right. So can I finish this in 5 minutes? We will see. Bonnie says that's also true. Weather is also hard to judge. Yeah, sometimes we have to take the southern route, which would go past our friends Suzanne, and we always talk about stopping in New Orleans. But usually it's around Mardi Gras, so when we're driving back, so that's less than ideal. When you've got a car full of stuff. Sometimes we talked about like staying out of town and then like Ubering in or something, but I don't know. We'll have to see about that. Also, if I go to the show, what do you think I should bring mostly? Like, do you think I should bust out the polymer and do mostly polymer pendants, or do some metal clay, or even do some ceramic? I always try to do some new things. I may do some gemstones. I started making some rings last night. Um, and so we'll see. What do you all want from me? Do you want more enameled stuff? I know that enameled stuff can get kind of pricey. So we're gonna think about different ways how we can get the price down a little bit so that it's more accessible. But we'll see. I've been on a kick lately with enameling. Also, if our friend Anne goes, I don't want to be like, "Hey, I'm on you, stepping on your territory." Um, Cynthia says, "I like driving south. I don't like the northern route." Yeah, but the northern route is where we go. We can get crystals. Cynthia says, "Is it a TGBE meeting?" Yes, it is. 6:15 is when that meeting is. Um, and Suzanne says, "Ordered my second pendant today. Thank you." And then Cynthia says, "People like your laser." Thanks. June says, "Do you have a booth selling?" Yeah, we're working on that right now. We're talking about that today. We talked about that today. um, so we're working on that. And I'm trying to get into another show. It's a 1 day show also. So it's going to be, everything goes according to plan, then we're gonna do 2 shows. I'm gonna try to get Cynthia in that second show as well, because I think it will be good. It'll be fun. All right, I'm gonna do one more of these, and that's gonna be it. All right. Do you think I can do just one more? It's kind of like Pringles. Once you start, you can't just do one. You just keep going and going. And I could probably do the whole strand. I think it's that muscle memory. It's just I feel that compulsive desire to finish off the strand of wire wrapping. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of funky. But oh well. Um. Oh yeah, and then the Beads of Kershaw. So we'll be doing 3 shows, maybe. I need to talk to Jean some more about that. We need to do a conference call. Jean says, "I'll try and come by and support you guys. Thank you." Cynthia says, June, we are splitting a 5-booth block at the whole bead show. So we have to make 5 booths worth of stuff. So that's something to think about. All right. So, all right. We've got our dangles that we worked on. And I made, let me count these. Maybe I'll add this one in there in the middle. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. I got to do at least one more, y'all. Just one more. I like it to have 19 is such a weird number for that. So I'm going to do 20. I don't care. Maybe I'll be late a few minutes. Oh, wow. Even though I'm helping lead it. So I'm going to grab another one of these. Julie says, I will definitely come to see you guys. Do you all want more serious stuff or do you want more cute stuff? I always wonder. Because, like at Handmade Arcade, they wanted cute stuff all day long. They didn't care about my serious stuff. They wanted cute things all day long. And so I kind of think about, like, should I make just cute stuff now? Maybe I'll have like an all when they come out all a different identity that just makes cute stuff. And then I'll have a serious identity. Our friend Jenny, she has 2 different kind of companies that she runs, and one of them is for her cute line, and then one of it's her serious line that she sells, or she does mostly for like museum shows and stuff. And Bonnie says, I love your serious stuff. Well, my serious stuff takes a long time too, so that's another consideration. And also, like, some of my serious stuff is kind of depressing. So it's like, oh, do you want this piece about generational trauma? Perfect, awesome. So we'll see. I kind of want to make like creatures. Cynthia's been getting me in the mood to make creatures lately. If you've been watching her live, she's been doing resin, and my fingers have been itching to get back into doing resin. But then I'm like, I'm doing this thing. So we'll see. I have a drawer full of resin pieces that I need to finish off. So we'll see if I just finish off that drawer full of stuff or not. Here we go. Natalie says, I got my ticket for Tucson yesterday. We'll definitely come see you. Oh, thanks. That'd be nice to see you. Teresa says, you should bring some of your pendants. I really like the cat one. Oh, I made some new ones. Maybe I'll sneak peek y'all some new ones of the new ones, but then there's ones that are not finished. So anyways, I got to get to that meeting, so I have to finish this. So we're going to get this flexible beading wire. If you want, you can use a color. I don't know. I think that white will be fine. It will kind of be modern or something. But you can match it to whatever you want. And you're going to need 2 crimp tubes, all right? 2 crimp tubes. They're 2x2. These are copper crimp tubes. And I'm going to string these up. All right. So I'm stringing this up. Stringing. If I have that one kind of chewed up pearl, I'm going to put that one in the middle, and then you can't really see it as much because it'll get kind of hidden by the other ones, unless it's already on there. And if you, like I said, if you use different components, like if you use a regular head pin or a bald head pin, and not bald like how I'm bald, but like a balled up, like I'm going to ball up the wire or ball up the paper, then it'll give it a different look. And there's some fun things that you can do with copper If you're doing that, you can, if you're making your own bald head pins, you can get it so they're rosy or that they're eggplant colored, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm just stringing this directly on this spool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off, I'm going to give myself, this is going to be about 3 inches of wire when everything's said and done. I'm not going to use all 3 inches, but I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I've got 2 ends here, and I'm going to string one of the crimp tubes on this end. All right. Oh, Softlex is watching. There you go, Softlex. You like that product placement that I just did there? All right, so I've got that one in there, and then I'm going to take this other one, and I'm going to string this into here like so. All right, and then I'm going to pull this, and I'm going to try to be kind of even about it. I'm going to try to be kind of even about it. I'm not going to pull too tight, because if I pull too tight, I'm not going to be able to get my my crimping plier in there. So I need to have it loose enough that I can get my crimping plier in. If I do it too tight, I'm not going to be able to get my crimping plier in. So there's 2 notches. There's one closest to the hand, and there's one closest to the tip. I'm going to go with the one closest to my hand, and then I'm going to squeeze firmly. I'm going to make sure that my wires are parallel and not crossing. You don't want to cross the stream. And then I'm going to turn the crimp tube on the side, and then I'm going to close it shut. If Softlex was using their magical crimpers, they'd say it's ravioli time. But I don't know how the magical crimpers. You know what? I'm not very good at that, the magic crimper. I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm not. So here's this. And then I'm going to take my other crimp tube, and I'm going to place this on one end, and then I'm going to go back over, and I'm going to go through the other side, and it's going to make a figure 8 basically. And the figure 8, this is going to be the bail for my my little cluster, my pearl cluster. Now, if you're wondering where you can get the pearls, we just put a pearl kit online, or pearl mix online, and it's got all different kinds. But we also have regular strands of pearls, and those are on allegorygallery.com. So if you want any of those, then look for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eyeball this, because right now this is off to the side, and I want this to be more in the middle. So I'm going to pull on this one side until I can get this. Now I don't want this to be popping out, so that it's, I want this to be directly over this one, right? So there, and I don't want that loop, the bail, to be super duper big. I mean, it could be if you wanted it to be, but I don't want that to be gigundo. So I'm going to kind of place it so that it's not right there up in the to be too big. And if you wanted to, you could add beads to that so that the loop is beaded. And then I'm going to take these flesh cutters and go in there real tight, real close, making sure not to cut the loop, but to get in there so that it's really nice, and you can get in there and it's not going to be super sharp on the edges, right? And then I'm just going to go over and take my crimping pliers and smooth out my crimp, because I kind of chewed that business up. I got distracted talking. All right. And if you want, you could add a crimp cover to that to finish it off a little bit more. But so here's this. Since it's got paddles, it almost kind of looks like a coronavirus. So maybe that's not the best look, but I think it's fun. It's a little bit dingle dangly time. If you imagine that this is like a beaded necklace, I'm just going to put this in for pretend. And then you had this like hanging like so. What do y'all think? I think that's like good for the holidays. Kind of, if you did a great big one, you could do like a big ornament or something. You like that? Softlook says it looks great, so then it must look good, right? Um, William says, I'm home to start the meeting. All right, well, I'm going to go because we're done. Look, we're done, y'all. June says, very festive. All right, I'm going to flip this around and then we can say goodbye. Howdy. I took my necklace off. I was wearing a pearl necklace earlier, this one, but it was kind of tight and I was bending over and it kept like getting choked. So I took it off, y'all. Sometimes you do what you gotta do because this was like, and then I watched this thing where there's this thing and they're like, okay, if somebody comes up from behind you and starts to strangle you, you put two fingers in there and then you push your seat back and then, but anyways, so this is what we made, y'all. Do you like it? It sounds cool. So if you wanted to, you could make these into earrings. Maybe not with the paddles. Well, I guess they're not too bad. But so that's what we made today. Hopefully you all had fun. I always have fun. You got to watch me wire wrap for an hour. So basically like watching paint dry for an hour. But we got to spend time together and that's what matters. So thank you so much for joining in. We all appreciate you so much out there. Thank you so much for helping us this holiday season and all the time. We're getting ready for Tucson, so we're trying to save up all of our nuts and get ready for that because it's kind of a big, expensive thing to do. So we're getting ready for that. So hopefully we'll see you there if we when we go, and I'll see you. William will be back tomorrow. Maybe we'll pop on tonight, depending on how we feel, with more little treasures. Who knows? Now it's like the Wild West now. All right. See ya. Thanks so much.